So hello and welcome to another episode of Scenes for Us, and today we're taking a very brief walk around the Mercedes-Benz Museum. Now I've decided to divide this up into two videos because quite frankly I'm a huge Mercedes fan and there was too much stuff for me to put into one video. So today we're going to be exploring the main rooms of the museum, and in the next episode we'll be exploring the side rooms. So let's go back to the very beginning now. Both of these cars are from 1886. On the one on the right is obviously the car that started it all. Now the engine that went into those very first cars also found its way into a number of different applications. For example, this motorbike, this tram car, this small car on wheels, and even an airship. Now this is the bottom bit of the airship, the actual blimp would sit above this. Now here we have a Benz. This was made between 1894 and 1901, and around 1200 units were made during this time. This was considered to be the first small car ever made, but also the world's first vehicle which featured large-scale production. Now we're going to move on to an 1895 Benz omnibus. Now in 1895 Benz actually bought the world's first two buses. So moving on a little bit, and we have here a 1904 Mercedes Simplex. Now this was the top of the range model at the time, so essentially is the S-Class of its time. So now we move on to my favourite cars in the whole museum. It's the 1902 Mercedes Simplex 40 PS. Now the main reason why I love this car is actually the oldest Mercedes in existence. And another interesting fact is that the word simplex actually relates to the relative ease in which it handled So moving on to the next room, and of course my favourite car that was in there, which is 1936 500k Special Roadster. Now the 500k was available in 8 different bodywork variants. The Special Roadster was the most appealing and the most elegant. At the time cost 28,000 Weissmarks, equivalent to 98,000 euros today. So now we're going to move on to 1938, and to this is a 260D Pullman limousine. Now the 260D was the first diesel engine passenger car which benefited from large scale production. It was particularly popular with taxi companies and limousine companies. So moving to the next room, and there's a lot to see in this room, a lot of exciting stuff. But we'll start off with this 1954 300S Convertible A. Now this is quite interesting. It took more of its design from the 1930s as opposed to 1950s. So now let's move on to a car that really helped put Mercedes back onto the map in the 1950s. So here we have a 1955 Mercedes 180. Now this is also known as the Ponton. And what was unique about this car is use that very much free box design. However, for something a little bit less everyday, I couldn't help but notice these three cars, and they've got a 300 SLR there. It's the racing version of the 300 SL. You have a 300 SL Roadster here, absolutely gorgeous in this lovely shadow red with the tan interior as well. And you also have this, obviously it doesn't need much to explain, it's a 300 SL Gullwing. Let's take a close look at this. So let's look at the next generation of SL. Of course, this is a SL Pagoda. This particular one was a 230. Now, of course, looking at the design of the roof here, you can really see how they got the name Pagoda. So here was something really special. This was a 300 measuring car. Now this is a one-of-a-kind car built for the testing department. It's equipped with measuring equipment large and heavy to record the data delivered by test vehicles during their test runs. The data was transmitted by a long cable that connected the sensors to the test vehicle with the instruments in the measuring car. And you can see that cable going across from the one car to the other. So let's move on to a 973, and this is an experimental safety vehicle. You can see it's sort of based on a 116 very loosely. So this car was used by Mercedes to improve safety standards in automobiles. So moving on to another one of my favourite cars of the museum, here we have a W116-300SD. Now this was the first time a diesel engine had been used in a luxury car, and the whole idea was this was to send this car to America to hopefully meet the stringent American safety and also environmental legislations. And of course this car contained the legendary 3-litre 5-cylinder turbo diesel engine. So here we have a 1984 190E, and of course this was famously labelled the Baby Benz. This was their new small car. Not only did this car have the legendary board stands that Mercedes live up to, it also had quite compact dimensions, and it also had low wind resistance and low weight. Now here we have a 1981 Auto 2000. Now 3 of these were bought, and the whole idea behind the concept was to try and reduce fuel consumption. They came with 3 cars with 3 different drive systems. So they had a V8 petrol engine with a cylinder cutout system, a gas turbine engine, and also, which this model was, the V6 turbo diesel engine. And now we have something completely different. This is an SLS AMG electric version. So this is one of the first electric supercars. And of course the SLS featured those iconic gullwing doors. Now I do like a B-Class, and this particular one was really interesting because this is a hydrogen powered B-Class, and this was actually, as you can see, used in the real world. They haven't bothered to clean it just to show that hydrogen was actually a practical idea. Now on to one of my favourite parts of the museum, and this was the motorsport section. There was a whole array of cars here, ranging from the very early cars, ranging to things like some of the SLRs, ranging to more of the modern DTM cars as well. And of course I had to spot this 500 SLC rally car. So, thank you for watching part 1 of this visit to the Mercedes-Benz Museum in Stuttgart. There was that much fantastic stuff that I've had to split this up into 2 videos, and the second part will be out shortly. Just to give you an idea how big the museum is, we spent about 4.5 hours here and we didn't exactly stop to look at every single car. So let me know in the comments below what your favourite car was. Thank you very much for watching. Goodbye.